Hi everybody, my name is James. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a Just Dance style coach. Now, before we started, I actually combined two different images to make this. Now, a lot of the time when you're making a Just Dance coach, you're going to want to use hip-hop dance costumes or photos of clothing models, whatever you want. For this, I combined a clothing model from Urban Outfitters and a hip-hop dance costume for the pants. And this is what it looks like so far. Now obviously it doesn't match and it's not going to look that good because we haven't done any coloring, we haven't done any effects at all. But this is just something to do as a little bit of an outline. So let's start. So the first thing you want to do is you want to cut out your coach from the background. Now let's take a look at our canvas size. This is a 800 by 1200 image. And you want to make sure you don't have this set to background. We're going to call this base. And simply we're just going to, well, let's quickly use the lasso tool so we can just make a nice rough selection of our coach. Like so. Remove that part of the background. Now when you're working with a coach, you want to have images that are over 1024 by 1024. Now the width doesn't have to be 1024, but you want the height to be over 1024. You want to have as high quality of coaches as possible to get the best results. So 800 by 1200 is the canvas I'm working with. You can always work with something bigger. Just try and keep it nice and high quality. Now, for removing backgrounds, there are many tools you can use. You can use Polygon Lasso tool, which is very simple, but you're not going to get the nicest selections. See, it's a little, we can use stroke quickly to see. That's what you're going to get. It doesn't look that bad, especially if you're experienced with the tool, but it's pretty rough. So what you're going to do, if you know already how to use this tool, then great. But if you don't, I highly recommend learning how to use the pen tool in Photoshop. It is much easier once you get to know the tool, and it is very, very efficient. You can use curves like so, and it will look much smoother once you finish cutting out the coach. So I'm gonna just quickly cut out the coach. I'm gonna skip this part, fast forward a little bit, whatever, you'll see it in post. So just quickly cut that coach out. Now another thing I wanted to point out is you see there's some hair strands. For male coaches, I usually don't worry about that. For female coaches, there are more advanced techniques to cut out hair. So for now, I would just learn how to do that on your own. There are many tutorials. I can link a few in the description for not only the pen tool, but how to cut out hair using the, let's see if I can quickly, should be in channels. Yep, right here. So if you know how to do that, then by all means do it, but since this is a male coach with short hair that's not really fluffy or like has any strands, I'm just going to continue as is. Once you're all done cutting out the coach, it should look something like this. So now I'm going to add a new layer. Make sure you add a new layer. If you do something like this, it is disgusting. Just add a new layer, backing color. This will help see any imperfections that you may have missed. As so, I have some white background splotches in the hair that I can't really remove with the pen tool. Oh shit, let me quickly give a second. I have pixels turned on. I do not know why that is. Alright. Now, a lot of the time when you're doing these coach cutouts, there's going to be some hair strands that you can't really get to, so you always can just make a new selection with the pen tool, keep doing this, and yeah, there you go. I think I actually, yep, spots over here, I think there's a spot, yeah. I can just use lasso tool. Sometimes it's better just to use lasso tool because pen tool is a little bit of a hassle. So really use polygon lasso tool when you want to make those straight cuts, and use pen tool when you need a little bit of curve. And there you go. Your coach is all cut out. Now, of course, there's still going to be some imperfections, but once we do gradient map and all that, you're not going to notice it, and unless you're a perfectionist, which sometimes I can be, then it should be fine. Now, before we get on to coloring the face and the clothes, there's some imperfections with my image that aren't on the edges. See, this is, the base that I used for the pants was a JPEG, and JPEGs have a lot of noise. So, for these types of situations, I like to quickly, well, for this I'm just gonna cut out this part of it because this is really the only noisy portion. And I'm gonna make a new layer and create it as a clipping mask. So a clipping mask basically just makes it so that, let's say you're gonna use smudge tool and you wanna make this a little more red, get these a little less white. That's gonna happen. The clipping mask will make it so that it shows only on the base, and it shows only on what is on the layer. So like if this is a transparent layer, it's only gonna show this. It's a little hard to put into words, in my personal opinion, but I hope you can get the gist of what I'm saying. So what I'm gonna do is just use the smudge tool, and we're gonna quickly just do some smudging, make it a lot less noisy. Because a noisy image does not look good, even when you are coloring. It looks very blotchy, very low quality, and you don't want that because you spend a lot of time on this coach. You don't want it to look blotchy or anything like that. So just use smudge tool. Once you're happy with the result, you can just merge down. Now, I'm gonna use merge down just because, like, this is the base image. Like, I'm not really gonna need to know what it looked like before the noise was removed, so I'm just gonna merge down. Now, obviously, this isn't really perfect noise removal. It's just very little that I could do, because I still got all this black and white noise here, but I'm just doing quick noise removal because, honestly, you don't have to go crazy. Just have to make the large imperfections not that noticeable. I think I just missed one over here, so I'm just gonna quickly brush it out. There you go. Now it's time to do the face. So a lot of Just Dance coaches have sunglasses, so this is the part where you can borrow from, let's say, a promo coach. So I'm going to drag in a 2019 Just Dance promo coach quickly. Now, this is completely optional. I might not end up using the sunglasses, depending on how it looks. But this is nice for what. So I'm just going to zoom in. And I'll just do a quick selection of these sunglasses. Now, when you're making Just Dance coaches, reusing old assets is very, very helpful. And makes it look a little more real because it's actually in a Just Dance game. So I'm just gonna have this here for now. I will decide whether or not I want to use these, but always make sure you're having extra details and stuff like that, like sunglasses. But for now, we're just gonna do some quick facial features. So again, take out your pen tool and start selecting the face. Now, since our coach is already cut out, we don't have to worry about staying inside the lines. So like I can go outside the lines and it'll still only select what's on the base. So just quickly And just like that, we've selected it. So I'm going to copy what's selected as a new layer. I'm going to nickname this face. And this is the part where we're going to start using folders, because these do tend to get very cluttered very fast. So I'm just going to call this folder face. And next we're going to create a gradient map right here. So obviously, yeah, that looks really weird. Create it as a clipping mask. And we're going to just make a quick preset. So you're going to have a white, and you're going to have a very, very light pink. So depending on the coach that you're using and the skin color, results may vary, but generally you're going to just want to use a pink and a white. So like so. I think that looks good. So actually I'm going to quickly just... I can just... Yeah. I'm going to do that. That's that left. Yeah, that looks good. So we're going to create another clipping mask, and we're just going to fill it white. And then we're going to turn down the opacity on it a little bit. And look at that. Facial features already look good. I'm going to actually turn it up a little bit. So next we're going to add another clipping mask. And this is where we're doing extra shading details. I'm actually going to turn these off because I need to have a nice selection of the chin. Then we're going to take a nice pink, a light pink. You can actually take a little bit of a darker pink because you can turn down the opacity on it. And then we're just going to paint over... Oh, it's not clipping mask. Just going to paint over like so as a shadow. So Just Dance coaches have the color pink as their shadow. And it's very useful to know that. It'll make it look more realistic. You're going for realisticism or whatever when you're making these. We're going to turn down the opacity to usually 25 to 30 looks good. And you can also just, if you really want to, you can smudge it or blur it a little bit. Personally, I kind of like it being sharp, but I am going to turn down the opacity a little more. And there you go. You just completed the face. I may or may not add sunglasses once again. I'm not sure yet. Next, we're going to quickly do the hand. We're going to do the exact same thing you did for the face, except you don't really have to worry about extra shadows with a pink layer. So go ahead, select it. Then we're just gonna, we'll call this left hand because we also have the glove here. Create. I'm actually gonna just make this my white layer. Another thing you can do if you want to use the same gradient map, you can actually press Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, and it'll actually copy the gradient map. You're not going to want to merge the gradient map. You never know if you want to change your colors or if you think something looks a little too harsh and you want to make adjustments. It's always very optimal to have the gradient map as a clipping mask instead of as a permanent feature of the layer. This is a mistake that I made in many of my older coaches, and I had to restart. So basically when you're creating your coaches, you want to make sure that everything you do can be edited at one point. Except for like noise removal and stuff, you don't have to worry about that. But make sure colors and stuff is all editable. So the hand's gonna look like that. Doesn't need to look too detailed. I'm actually gonna turn it down a lot. Alright, and finally we have the glove. Actually I have to make this a folder. So we already have two folders. Once again, it's going to get cluttered. So having folders is very crucial and makes it look a lot neater. So the glove's a little different than the skin tone. You're just going to select the hand as normal. Unfortunately, the hand is right above the pants layer, so you got to make sure to avoid that. But this is actually going to come in handy later. It will make our selections a lot faster once we get to the actual clothes. So we're just going to make a quick selection. We're going to call this one glove, spelled wrong. So we're going to create another gradient map, but this time we're going to use a different color. So I usually have a dark blue, regular blue, and light blue gradient map preset. From here I might want to remove the dark blue, depending on the color. I think I'm just going to keep blue for now. You're going to have a nice gradient map here. And then this is optional, but I think it actually looks a lot nicer. You're going to create another clipping mask, and you're going to blur the original hand layer a little bit, so it looks like that. And that'll actually make your glove look a little more like an actual glove. Then you're going to take the original color. I think I'm going to use this blue right here, paint over it, turn down the opacity ever so slightly, and there you go, you made a nice glove. So this is how our coach looks so far, and it honestly does look pretty good, but gradient map is your best friend. You're going to make all these clothes look nice and pretty, and it's going to look great. So first up, we're going to do hair. Now hair is a little annoying, especially if you want to make it blonde. So for this coach, I'm just going to use a black and purple kind of style. You'll see when I add it. I like having my hair layer on top. Uh-oh, our selection is kind of weird because it has both the face and the hair. The best part about making your selections earlier, you can just control click the original layer, and just like that, you have only the hair. So I'm just gonna make another folder, hair. Gonna make another gradient map. We're gonna make this black to purple. Great clipping mask. Now, of course, I don't really like how this looks so far, so I'm actually gonna make this a dark purple-ish here. I'm actually gonna use 3 colors. Alright, and I like how this looks. Now, as you can see, there are many imperfections with this particular hair strand, but all around there's a little bit of leftover white blotches. So this is another little technique that I like to use. Create another clipping mask. Actually, just create a regular layer, blank layer here as a clipping mask. And now you're going to use the clone tool. So you're just going to alt-click for a sample, and from here you're just going to paint. And everything's being affected by the gradient map, so you don't have to worry about hair being different colors for some reason. This is nice to just get rid of the blotches that you may have missed. Just like so. And it already looks nice. Now, I think I'm just going to keep the hair like this for now. You can always change it, but for now I'll just keep it. And then from here, you're going to try and find a color scheme that fits what you're going for. So if I have this purple hair, I don't want to use like a neon green or something. That's going to look bad. So now we're going to go on to the shirt. So since I already cut out everything but the pants and the shoes, I can just take my time for these little areas here, and then I can just have fun here. Then take my time again. Then we can go crazy again, like so. So this is going to be our shirt. As you can tell, I spelled that wrong again. That's our shirt layer so far. So just control click, make sure you're on the right layer, backspace. Do this for every layer that potentially gets in the way of the, let's say for now this is the shirt layer, for example. So here we got the shirt, and you can always get creative with the shirts. It's very fun to do that. So now's the time where you want to look for patterns and stuff like that. So go ahead, find complex patterns if you want. I'm gonna look for one, and then I'll come back when I found one. Alright, this is a pattern that I think will be fun to work with. So first we're going to adjust the layer, and then we're going to actually warp it. So it's actually like skewed and looks like it could be on an actual shirt. And we'll have it on multiply or something. I'm actually going to color this right here. I'm going to use the color preset. And then our shirt can look like, I kind of like this, honestly. I like how this looks. So I'm actually going to quickly copy the layer just in case I want to have a backup. Now we're going to just do regular gradient map, as per usual. From here I have this little preset, once again. I'm actually going to use, I like using hot pink. That's a very popular one for me. For this coach, I think I'll use a nice purple and blue. Feel free to add as many colors as you want to these gradient maps. As long as the end product looks fine, then you don't really have to worry. Alright, I actually kind of like how this looks. But the glove kind of blends in, so I'm actually going to change my color. This is why you want to keep gradient map like as a clipping mask, because you can just do this 1-2 easy. So I'm actually going to make it a hot pink or something like that. And then after that, you obviously need to change the original color. Just like that, so easy. So now we have a sweater. We have hair. Next is pants. Now, if there are multiple colors on a pants, you can obviously just select each color as you go. Like, let's say I want to keep this black and white, but I want to make it less noisy and have a little less color. You can just make this a black and white gradient map. Personally, I'm just going to select all of it. I'm just going to make sure I avoid this left hand so I don't have to open up that folder. For the pants, we're just going to do the same thing we did with the shirt, except less so. Remove the shirt and the glove, and look at that. Our pants are the only thing selected here. Now I'm just going to copy this gradient map and work from there. As you can see, the noise is definitely showing through here. So don't be like me. Please fix that on your own, or don't use JPEGs. Make sure your coaches are higher quality and less noisy. That's my #1 recommendation I can give you when making a coach for the first time. This step is completely avoidable. Alright, pants are nice. And I'm actually going to add another pattern to this. Make sure your patterns aren't watermarked, by the way. That should be a pretty obvious thing to know, but it's very obvious when something is watermarked. But here's a little wavy thing. So I'm actually going to make it vertical, shrink, -90. Gonna keep that on multiple. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna have it very, very light and translucent. So it's very subtle. Some of your effects can be as, whatchamacallit, as harsh as this. Some of them can be subtle. That's okay. Just make sure it looks good to your eyes, and you're fine. So let me actually make that filter. And finally we have these shoes. Now, shoes are pretty easy usually. You can just make them black, or you can actually be creative and use multiple colors. For these, I'm actually going to split them in two. So I'm actually going to turn off the base for this. Just, I don't know why. Kind of a force of habit. So, just going to make a nice selection of the white part of the shoe, the bottom of it per se. Obviously these are going to be different colors every time, or they could be the same if you're getting them from the same website, because you know, some sites like to just use very simple shoes. So I'm going to make this a name because I can keep these shoes parts in the same folder, so I'm going to call this bottom shoe. Again, with the gradient map. The gradient map is amazing. Best tool in Photoshop if you're making just dance coaches. So I'm actually going to just make it silver and white. Or maybe I'm going to actually, you know what, I'm going to be creative with this. I'm going to use a nice light blue. Yeah, I feel like these kind of look weird with a... Sometimes you're gonna use like lighter colors as the first color here. You're not always gonna need 3 or more colors. Sometimes you're just very well use 2. Just all up to what you think looks fine. So I think I'm gonna actually have a nice pink to blue, because it kind of goes with the bottom of the shoe. Then keep the base on just in case your selections are a little weird looking and they're missing parts of it. I think I'm just gonna do some touch-ups. Let me see. Alright, and that's what our coach looks like. Now obviously there's no glow or anything like that. That's all done in post. But if you could just do a quick comparison, I'm actually going to... Let me actually put these in a folder of its own. Then we can just call this FX. We'll call this folder base. Make sure you save all your projects as PSDs, that is crucial. So turn off effects, so now I'm going to turn off the backing color too, or I'm going to make it, oh, I still have those sunglasses. So here's before. We have a coach, doesn't match, looks weird. You know, very obviously looks like it's 2 separate images made together. And after, and I think this actually came out really well. I really like how this looks. Maybe the shoes I can definitely change, make it look simpler, but I think this is a very cool coach concept, and I'm pretty proud of what I made. So now from here, save it as a PSD, but since I'm not going to do that for the sake of timing, I guess, I'm just going to merge my group for the FX layer. I'm going to turn off the base, or you can keep it on if you want, I don't care. And next we're going to add a stroke layer if you want to have something simpler. So I'm actually going to put this at 6, and whatever your first stroke layer is, your second one should be double it for the best results, in my opinion. I think that's a little too thick. I'm actually going to make it a little... You can actually just do something like that if you really want. Or you can make a paper cutout like stroke, but that you kind of have to do manually. You can't really get a paper cutout stroke in Photoshop. So that's it. And if you really want, this is an optional step, Just depends on what you're going for, but you can add a white inner glow. I mean, most Just Dance coaches don't really use inner glow anymore, so completely optional. But that is it for the coach tutorial. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, comment, everything.